Everybody ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Going to go ahead and bring the Energy Committee meeting of September 5th, 2023 to order. Our usual time is 7:01. In fact, notification, this meeting is videotaped. Open meeting law requires you to advise the open meeting session, so we're advising you that you are bound to be recorded. Your image may be used and videotaped. And if you do not wish to consent to that, I'm sorry, but you gotta leave. No, just kidding. But here we go. So first order of business for today is review of the minutes. So did you get a chance to read them, Amy? I did as well. Motion to approve the meeting minutes of August 1st, 2023. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Minutes are approved. Okay, we have some visitors today. So our first order of business is to welcome Colonial Energy to our meeting today. Purpose of this discussion is to discuss the adder. Also, the impacts of the recent decision of the Department of Public Utilities on the acceptable use for municipal energy aggregation adders. You guys can come up, or if you prefer, however you want to do it, you can move space. Or
Yeah, I'll drag my chair.
all right,
Do you want to sit in here, or is this okay?
however that works. I don't know if Roger can get you.
I can drag my chair.
If it's
There.
fine, then we stay here. If you can
Stay there. We're good.
Okay. So I guess Mark
Yeah, go ahead.
Capadona, 5 Mount Royal Ave, Colonial Power Group.
I'm Denise Alec, also from Colonial Power Group.
Joseph Capadona, Colonial Power Group.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. So tonight we're going to talk about the adder and what usage the department. So the department used to give us kind of a free rein. As of maybe it was 6 months ago now, they've issued a new ruling on how they wish that the adder be used. And what they're saying is those adder dollars can be used for an energy manager position, assisting in the aggregation. So what does that mean to the town? So somebody that was going to be taking any phone calls, that would be looking at any of the aggregation data, those kind of things, that person's position could be funded with the adder. Probably not a full position, just given the revenue that's created by the adder. That being said, what do people do? Out in I'm going to say in the Berkshires, they've talked about starting to take adders because what they're looking to do is create an energy manager position. There's lots of dollars out there. The Inflation Reduction Act. There's a bunch of other things that could be done if, say, the town of Harvard and Berlin got together and they said, oh, I'm going to take those dollars, we're going to share an energy manager. Maybe it would take 2 or 3 different towns. And that person works on behalf of the 3 towns. And they go out looking for energy efficiencies and other projects. So one of the things that I have heard that what communities do is if they have the salaries in place for these energy managers, I want to make sure that I'm clear. It doesn't have to be the only job that person performs. It just has to be one of the tasks that person performs. So what they actually do is it's a little bit of a shell game. They say, okay, I'm paying the person $70,000 plus benefits or what have you. And those dollars are actually backfilled by these dollars. So if in town you said, hey, someone's making $70,000 and all of these, we're going to hire a position here in Berlin, but the dollars were going to be used for, I'm just making this up, Harvard and Bolton and other people that have other small towns. Those dollars come in, and that $100,000 that you were using, that's your discretion to use for any project you wish to use that on. But the dollars collected from the aggregation would be used to pay the salary. So you understand it's 6 of one, half dozen of another, but you're using the dollars to pay that salary, not the money you've already allocated for that salary.
Okay. So and you and I spoke on the phone prior to
Yes,
this meeting,
correct.
and that was one of the discussion points was about the salary thing. One of the initiatives that is currently underway in the town is that there is a facilities review, both use and otherwise, and one of the add-ons that we're talking about is doing a full energy assessment of the buildings as part of that engineering assessment of the structures overall, as well as their use. So one of the things that has been proposed to us by Kristen, who doesn't look like she's been able to make it today, she's on vacation, so we'll forgive her, but proposed is using potentially funds that were accrued by the municipal aggregation to pay a portion of that facilities thing, the portion specifically done that would look at the energy efficiency, the overall energy systems associated with those structures. Now, given the guidance that I just heard you say, that seems like a professional services, which is analogous to a salary type of position. In your opinion, knowing that I know you can't speak for the DPU and I know
Yes.
you can't speak as a lawyer, would that meet your understanding of an acceptable use under the new?
Would you be having an employee of the town, or would that be an outside firm that was doing that?
This was an outside firm that is doing this. It is not an employee of the town.
In that scenario, so I can just tell you, I know the department's looking to have, if it was someone that was working here, it's not that you couldn't hire a private person. I still think you would be okay if you were using those dollars and you said, we have a bucket of, I'm making up a number here, $15,000 that we're going to use for this energy-related services. You're not implementing, what they don't want to see being done is you going out and saying, I'm going to buy light bulbs or
Right.
insulation, things of that nature. But to get the audit done, I do believe it is within the spirit of the law so that you'd know where you'd want to go for mass save. So
Correct.
that you said, I'm making this up, but we need a new a water treatment plant. We need a new pump. You know what I mean? One that's
Yeah.
multi speed and
A
so forth.
VFD, yeah.
Absolutely. All of those things, I do believe that is absolutely in the spirit of what the department's looking to do
Yep.
with those dollars.
And that's consistent with the language that's in the towns. I know the DPU has made a little shift here, but that's consistent with the
Yeah.
language that's in the original aggregation plan and the order, administration costs associated for energy management services.
Okay.
Which was a little broader. Some towns have personnel costs associated with an energy manager position, but I think with some of the smaller communities, we did envision like maybe joint or group, and so that's why it was worded that way. So I think it, like Mark said, it fills both the
Yeah,
language in the original docs.
There would be no capital expenditure, for lack of a better term. There would be no stuff that comes as a
Right.
result of this. There would be a report that comes at the end of it, which would then guide our decisions as well as the communities
Yes.
on what to do. So I think that on its face, as you said, seems like to be in the spirit and is definitely something that we'd like to consider using that adder for. And that's one of the things that Kristen also suggested, and Peg is with us as well from the select board. That the recent meeting I know you guys had that came up. So that was one of our primary targets. It's also worth noting that Berlin has expended no funds from collection of the adder, which we've done for many years now. So we've accrued quite a decent amount at this point. And I believe they're looking for $18,000, something in that respect, to do that. So it wouldn't break the piggy bank, but we want to make sure that on this first expenditure that we're at least following or at least attempting to follow the guidelines associated.
No, and I think it certainly would follow those guidelines.
Yeah.
I mean that honestly, that's the kind of thing that they would be looking, again, putting, insulation or a charging station, now that's something that they want you to go to mass save on and use that, the dollars that you're spending for mass save for those purposes. So they don't want a double collection, so to speak.
Mhm.
But this, to figure out what you wanted to do, seems to fit perfectly into what the department's looking to do.
And what our goal is, fundamentally, and one of the key things that this board would like, or this committee would like to do, as well as working with our capital planning committee, is we want to get to the point where our facilities, the infrastructure associated with those facilities, are well-known, well-documented, their engineering lifespan is known, so that we can get on a plan to replace them rather than dealing with failures.
That's a great idea.
That's
Correct.
a big goal for us. A secondary goal that we have, speaking for the Energy Committee, and you guys kill me if I don't, but is we want to make sure that whatever we do through grants, whatever we do through any kind of, money that we get is integrated appropriately. Because one of the problems that we've had here is this building in particular is a Frankenstein. It's been renovated, it has different parts on it. We've learned that some of the controls, one uses an amperage, the other one uses a voltage for its triggers. So we've got this thing, it makes our energy management system dysfunctional. For a building this simple, it should not be that hard. And that's what we're getting at. And we have valves that stuck in, the Shaggy Dog stories go on and on and on. So when we get to the point, like we are here, where things like air handlers are starting to be replaced, where we're starting to look at green community programs for heat pumps, which are being strongly encouraged. We want to make sure that no matter what we do, that the controls is compatible with the systems, that the systems all are running the same way, that it's easy to maintain, that it's understood. Because we have burned a lot of maintenance time, we've burned a lot of maintenance dollars, simply doing detective work to try to figure out what's going on. And we would like to stop doing that. And of course, this is one of our main buildings. Berlin's not huge, so we don't have a ton of them, but we want to make sure that similarly, all of that is being done across all of our infrastructure. So that's where we want to be. And that also positions us for green community grants to have a more intelligent and more shovel-ready, friendly type of thing, is saying, listen, this is part of our long-term plan, here's how it works, this is how it addresses, these are the needs that we have, this is the backup material that we've generated to support that, boom, 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 and then we go into the thing. So, having said that, based on what you heard, what is the art of the possible from your guys' perspective on how these funds and your expertise can help us get to that, and what other programs maybe haven't we thought of that we should be considering?
So from, at least from my standpoint, you mentioned the green communities, and somebody's going to have to write that grant.
Mm-hmm.
The person that's writing that grant, their salary, because of what they're doing, if we said to them, hey, listen, you're also going to take in the municipal aggregation data, or take a look at it and so forth, that person's job that you already have could be funded by this, and then take those dollars and go for larger dollars, which I'm assuming
So
you mentioned.
compounding.
Yep. I'm assuming you could dovetail that into what your greater plan is, meaning that person is going to be writing grants for the green communities, maybe the Inflation Reduction Act. And the reason I'm saying that is, depending, I'm not certain how much people are up to speed, but under the Inflation Reduction Act, communities like yourselves, all the municipalities, the way they've been funding these in the past is through what they call a tax credit. So a solar developer will go out and find a tax equity person, somebody that wants that tax credit, and it's traded. Well, rather than leaving the municipalities and tax-free entities out, in the Inflation Reduction Act, believe it or not, you can get those dollars for those programs. So they actually give you what I would call a cash direct payment. So you get 1/3 of the program, meaning that there's a solar array you want to put on this roof. Just so it's easy math for all of us, it was $1 million, and you said, oh, 1/3 of that is $333,000. You would get a check for you to kick in ownership in that program for the $333,000 once it's built. But that's your distribution. You can do that, and it can be on the town building, get the benefits, carbon-free, all of those things that that people are looking to do. What it really takes is someone, given the amount of that we're sitting on a sea of renewable energy dollars, if you will, that people can tap into. They just, unfortunately, smaller towns don't have the people and the resources to go tap those dollars.
Correct.
So if you had someone that was going to be doing that, I would make one of their tasks municipal aggregation as well, so that they could be full-time taking a look at this report that's going to come out, because that person is instrumental on figuring out, I'm just going to use your example, this is the building we want to get to first, because from a point of failure standpoint, we have 3 systems in here that aren't working first in concert. Second, we think the ACA the HVAC is going to go in the next 3 years. We want to hit that first before we get to the police station, the fire, or school, or what have you.
Yep.
So that all of that can be dovetailed together to create a cohesive plan for Berlin. But once that person gets involved, as long as one of their tasks of Muni Ag, you can use those dollars to help do all of that kind of groundwork. As you can see, there's not a lot of time and effort needed for Muni Ag, but it can help fund that position to do all the other things, which it warms my heart that everyone here is thinking about those things, because I can tell you right now, I mean, we do this with a little over 100 communities, or 100 communities across Massachusetts. The city of Lowell deals with failure. That's how they
Yeah.
maintain their buildings. It failed. Fix it. They went a whole winter without heat in the high school because of situations like that. I tip my cap that you guys are already thinking about creating an overall plan that would actually get you. I'm saying to you, you would have an idea. Hey, listen, we don't need to look at the air handler at the police station or the fire station because that was replaced in 2009. We need to look here, it was replaced in 2000.
Right.
Those kind of things are invaluable because someone may be complaining about something, but general maintenance now gets that much easier. Never mind, I hadn't given that enough thought. When things get piecemeal together, you have running on voltage and so forth, and now all of a sudden, troubleshooting that should take less than 15 to 20 minutes could take days and weeks and even months to figure out exactly what's happening.
And our energy management system should be able to diagnose that autonomously, and it can't.
Well, that would be fantastic when you get there and
Right.
you're getting told that, hey, listen, we have a diode, we have an issue, there's something like that. That's when you really get to the final. That's where I think everyone would like to get to. Let's just call it a smart building,
Right.
and that would be a wonderful thing.
Well, the ideal case would be that we can trust the system, that it can correctly identify these things. It can dispatch directly to a contractor that is prepaid. And, Fred doesn't have to deal with this as much because there's somebody knocking on the door at 7 a.m. when this place doesn't heat up like it sometimes does in the winter, right? Because they already know they've gotten a
Message already went out,
The
yeah.
message already went out. And we're not there yet. We're not even close to there yet.
No, but you're looking to take the first step, and many communities don't have the forethought to get to that point.
Correct.
Because once you get the report, then you can make some decisions at a much higher level than you're currently working on. Today, it's just put the finger in the dam, and hopefully, okay, we
Yeah.
can fix this problem, that problem, and so forth. So,
It's and you get cascading failures,
Oh.
which is
Worse.
not even worse. One of the things that we currently employ CMRPC to help us with the green communities piece and some of the grant citing. Do you see would that be a legitimate offsetting some of the costs associated with CMRPC, or does it have to be a private entity or a individual who's employed by the town to qualify?
So ultimately, they're looking for the dollars to stay at the town level. But I'm saying to you, at the smaller towns, if you were to hire someone to do something rather than pay the health insurance and so forth of a long-term employee, I still believe you're within the spirit of the law, hiring somewhat, or the ruling, I don't want to call it the law, but their ruling.
Yep.
I believe you're in the spirit saying, I'm using these dollars so that I can become more energy efficient or energy aware. I don't want to use the word efficient because that's when we start to get into trouble.
Yeah.
But for what you're talking about, I don't think that would be a problem at all to be using those dollars for the CRMPC. That is completely legitimate, saying, hey, I don't want to take on an employee that's going to cost $70,000 plus benefits for the next so many years. Given the small load that we have, there's not enough to fund. But I can do something in this fashion. And as long as what you're showing, meaning we always give you an accounting every year of what you should have received compared to what you received. And you say, these are the dollars were used. I don't think you're ever going to have a problem with the department because you are within the spirit of the law. I mean, it's your workaround, right? It's, hey, we don't have the manpower.
Because we don't, and Peg, correct me if I'm wrong, but I may be speaking out of school, but I don't think Berlin necessarily, imagine trying to coordinate a single employee across 3 or 4 towns. Who do they work for? In my opinion, that I think using an umbrella organization to be able to manage that kind of thing is a better choice for a community of our size than trying to coordinate that? Because, I mean, now Kristen has to deal with 2 or 3 other town managers. It just,
No, and it's a lot. I know for a time, and I don't know if it didn't work out, but they're not doing it anymore. Haverhill and Methuen shared a town manager. He used to, not a town manager, well, he was a town manager. His name was Orlando Pacheco. He used to be the town manager in Lancaster, but he was also the energy manager in both Haverhill and Methuen. It was a shared, but they're no longer doing that. So to your point, I think it's an excellent point. It's not as easy as it would appear how you would allocate time. I guess it would come down to
yeah.
you paid X amount, 35%, they paid 40%, and that's how you'd have to allocate time, as best I could tell.
Yeah, and I have to correct myself too. We don't have a town manager, we have a town administrator.
Yeah.
Well, we currently do something similar with the housing.
Correct.
We're with 8 towns,
Okay,
and Hudson takes care of the bulk of the paperwork.
I see.
But they hire the professionals that do all the paperwork that is really beyond my skill level
Understood.
or interest.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess how are we doing on time? Pretty good. My last question to you is, this is kind of an opportunity for you to take the floor, really.
Okay.
So what do you think? What could you bring to the table to help us with both our good and what the products and services that you offer?
So our products and services are already what we offer. We stay in a very small niche. We do
Okay.
municipal aggregation, and we do municipal aggregation, the A side of it, it's the power supply. We created this, this is going to sound odd, just for Muni Ag in Massachusetts. And I'm saying to you, if you wanted us to take out the town buildings, if you wanted to put them in the ag, that's different, but if you wanted us to just do that load, we would introduce you to someone I know that does a great job on that. We don't even take that out to bid that way. And the reason we don't is we want to focus on our core business and our core business only. We do Muni Ag, and that's what we do. I can tell you that I can think of lots of reasons of why the road you're heading down is an excellent road. And as I said, the forward-thinking nature of what you're trying to do will pay dividends for years to come. And the reason I'm saying that is the unfortunate nature of municipal government is point of failure. We fixed the problem and the heating system's working. But what they don't tell you is, oh, they messed up what's going to happen next on your, next spring you're going to have a problem with the air conditioning because of what I did to fix the heating system. Mm-hmm. And you're not there the next time, so you don't know to tell them, hey, look at this. And where you're heading is absolutely the right direction because you're going to have a master plan and know what all your components are. And that is more than half the battle. Once you know that, then you can start to replace things uniformly across the system that, as you mentioned so eloquently, a phone call could go out and the gentleman that brought everything up to snuff would also know that I brought everything up to snuff. I need to go down to heating room C, and I just need to check this valve.
Right.
That does not exist today.
Correct.
So, from my standpoint, I will say this. Anyone that you hire, I would have them look into the Inflation Reduction Act.
Okay.
There is a sea of dollars out there for municipalities. And I'm saying to you, it is funded extremely well. And here's where it comes down to dollars and positions. A lot of the cities that have had the chance to dig into the Inflation Reduction Act understand those dollars and where they stand. Hey, I can actually participate in a solar array, help out, renewable energy. Municipally, I'm lowering my carbon footprint, but I can also get to the point where I'm actually helping, meaning maybe possibly lowering that price enough because I've taken $300,000 out of the financial equation, which turns out at this point is a much bigger, years ago, 2-3%, and that's what you were getting funding at. Now it's triple that, 7.5%, 8%. So those kind of things that are sitting there for you if you apply, that's where I would look for the. I honestly, I hadn't heard anyone say this before. I love the idea of the plan first. And then after that plan, I would start to sit down and say, if you had extra dollars, I would put them towards what are my grant opportunities now for a municipality? Inflation Reduction Act, what I'll call SMART. The dollars are still sitting there. And then, actually before SMART, it's still the same organization. The DOER is just, there is so many, and I mean so many different avenues for you, I believe. Once you get that plan, you show that plan to National Grid. How can I get Mass Save to help me do what I need to do? And those are the kind of questions that they're experts at what they need to do. They're gonna sit you down because you're a town, and they're gonna show you, this is what we can offer you, and here's an overall plan. Year 1, you do this, year 2, you do this, year 3, you do that. But between you and I, it's not what I do, it's just what I watch other communities do.
Well, yeah, and that's what we're looking for is your perspective. And,
Yeah.
And thank you for that. So I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. Honestly, this has been great. Thank you. Any other questions?
See if Sue or Peggy have
You
questions.
guys have anything? Sue?
So just to confirm, the money can't be used on a third party, correct, to do the assessment, but we could hire somebody to do it?
Yeah, so it could be a third party, as long as you make sure you document the report cost X, we brought in Y, and those dollars were used for this report.
Okay.
We don't wanna hire someone at the local level. The next best thing I can do is third party that out. I think it would be perfectly fine. I just want you to know the department is looking for a municipal hire, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, no, I mean, to your point, wondering if the company that we're going to hire to do the assessment, if we call them up and say, hey, you're coming to do an assessment on the building, by the way, do you know anybody who does an energy assessment? So you know what, just come along, so building person could say, oh, no, or they could say, hey, the building's in great shape, and the energy person steps out and says, that's great, but you've got 15 holes in the roof and heat's going out the door and it's coming under this way, so even though the building's in good shape, it's gonna cost you $80 bazillion to make it energy efficient.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, the one thing I'll say to that is you don't have to pay someone for that. Mass Save will come for free.
And we've actually.
do the audit.
We've had an audit done of these two buildings for sure. It would be an update.
Yep.
I think what would be critical for us though is that the last engineering assessment we had was probably 6 or 7 years ago. And I don't know what's changed.
I
don't
think
know
it was
what's been
17.
repaired. It was 2017?
2017, I think.
5 years. So
Yeah.
it's been,
Oh, wow.
it's been a while.
Okay.
So the takeaway I had was, the spirit is if you're not buying things,
Yes.
you're buying skills, you're
Services.
buying services, you're complying with the spirit of what the intent is. What they're trying to make sure that we don't do is get in the lane of Mass Save, which is a separate.
That is correct.
Perfect.
That's exactly correct. They don't want to see you buying,
A fleet of electric vehicles.
exactly. Exactly, because there are dollars, believe it or not, out there under the DOER for those electric vehicles. And now we're doing competing things from two different entities.
This is just trying to make sure we don't pollute the pool by
Well said.
cross.
Pollinating it. That is
Cross-
correct.
Okay, I understand.
I'm happy.
Amy,
Yep.
thank you.
Well,
Well, you're
So
welcome.
thank you very much, and I appreciate your time very much. So.
Oh, thank you. Anytime you don't want to have us, we're literally right up the road. It's 5 minutes.
Yeah, but I feel a little bad. I mean, you're all three of you here.
It's what we do. That's why I
Appreciate
hired
the
us.
time.
Okay,
Very much
thank you
so.
very much. Rob Capello, nice to meet you.
You'll be on the call, right? We'll be talking.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Thursday.
Perfect.
Yep.
Good.
I will be there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you as
for your
well.
help.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good to see
Thank you for your time.
Bye-bye. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
See you on Thursday.
Yep. Yeah, see you
See you
soon.
on that.
Yeah.
The timing
More
was-
video, more electric.
It kinda is.
Bye.
Yeah, the timing was good. I feel better, just speaking candidly. I needed to hear that. I wanted him to say it out loud for everyone, right? Because we had spoken on the phone and the salary thing
Yep.
had come up. And that seemed like a simple delineation to me that, if you're not buying stuff and you're buying services, you should be okay. Which is good. And I think the DOER, having thrown a giant monkey wrench in the middle of this with no warning to many, many communities, needs to they have a little bit of onus on them as well to
Mhm.
try to make this work.
Well, I mean, it's definitely going to help in the assessment because of, a building comes back and it's structurally sound but not worth it energy-wise, and you're trying to put it up for sale, full disclosure.
Yep.
Oh, here, you just want it for the land, or, we've done the assessment for you, so.
And like, to stay in the example of the air handler, which I
Mhm,
know we've
mhm.
just replaced, right? In 2017,
Not yet.
supposed to be replacing, soon we'll be replacing. In 2017, that air handler was identified in our last survey that we did through Green Communities as being beyond its engineering lifetime. So it gave a good fight and lasted 3 or 4 more years, maybe 5 years before it started failing.
Quite the champ.
But we knew it was gonna fail.
Correct.
And I would love to see us get to the point where we don't have to deal with failures. And we can go to town meeting and say, okay, we've done our due diligence. This is what happens when we don't take care of these things. And you get charged more because now it's an emergency call as opposed to something that's planned.
Well, the nice thing is to get it on the capital planning
Correct.
review cycle as well, so that they know in insert number of years here, we're going to insert number of dollars here, because
ma'am.
insert item
Yeah,
is not gonna last longer, so.
so finance knows what
Well,
to do.
the other thing I would like to see is, it doesn't mean we'd have to replace it immediately, but if we could have a kitty,
Yes,
so that, when they see the signs,
yes.
it's getting there, it will be done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sue, you're architect by training.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to it?
No, I don't think that any report by, who you were thinking of
Mhm.
doing an assessment, I don't think it's ever solely just on the structure unless you ask them.
Mhm.
I think they also include the other elements, the electrical, the HVAC, and the plumbing. I think that's all in a report by a person that comes out to assess a building. But I do know that for grant writing, especially for energy, it's having this separate energy report assessment is extremely helpful when you're going after grants, because that's what they ask for. Do you have an energy assessment? When we had our solar array installed, that was the first thing we had to do, was pay for an assessment, and then we got a grant. So they have grants to pay for the assessments, which is basically what these guys are doing, are saying, there's money for you to do that. And then you use that to show step by step what you need to fix and how to fix it and how to go from there. And it just makes the grant writing so much easier.
Yeah.
If I knew this was gonna be on video, I would have actually dried my hair instead of just running out of the shower.
Roger, come here. You guys can.
Oh my God, now I'm gonna be red.
But it's not on camera.
Good.
All right. That's the big thing we need to do. The second thing we need to talk about is the vehicle assessment. Were you able to get that over to the?
I have the spreadsheet now that
Okay.
they are using. He
Okay.
said if I can't figure it out, just send it all over.
Awesome.
So
All right. And sorry.
I'm gonna give it probably another week, and if I can't figure it out, I'll just send it all over.
Yeah, absolutely. That, and just to give you confidence to do that, they pretty much told us when we do this, just send us whatever we have, and if we have questions, we'll sort it out with you. So don't feel like you have to get it perfect. Don't let perfect get in the way of good enough.
Well, if you do it perfect, then they say, well, they don't need us.
It's progress, not perfection.
Let's see, what else? Fleet management we talked about. I will call Kristen when she's back to get time on her staff agenda. And I do believe that is the incentive. The other thing I have not heard, has anyone heard about the grants for Green Community? I will call Kelly because it's September. Typically, these are coming out in October. I don't think we're in a position necessarily to respond.
anything yet.
Yeah,
This
but it's
point?
hard to respond if you have no
If you
idea
don't know
what.
what there
That's right,
is.
can't plan if you don't know what's going on, so. yeah.
The other thing is, this building was started to be occupied in 2000. According to our records, I believe the police roof is next to be replaced. I don't know about leakages and stuff, I just know age-wise.
Yeah, 23 years. And what, asphalt shingles are good for 25 to 30 years
Mhm.
typically?
I believe they have different grades, but I have no idea what grade they used. I have no confidence.
Hopefully a nice, high-quality one.
I wouldn't bet my firstborn.
So, there you go, you're probably looking, at least part of the roof is now also beyond its engineered life expectancy. So, that's another hit.
Which would also be advantageous if they're looking, if Chief Mike is looking at fixing that spot over there to turn into a bunk area,
Yep,
then do it all at once, cause right now they just threw insulation in there to try to keep the ice from,
yeah, the ice dams from forming.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got contractors there,
Mm-hmm.
it would be mighty foolish not to take care of your fundamentals, which is your roof.
Correct.
Because you're gonna do all this beautiful work and then you're gonna have a big old leak and have it ruined, so hopefully that would be on the table. All right, I think we've actually gone through the bulk of what we need to do. Any walk-ons or anything you guys wanna talk about? Anything else? Peg, you good?
I'm good, I'm trying to see if I
Oh.
can find a link for.
Where do we stand with highway?
What about highway? Oh, the highway barn?
Yeah,
I don't
Which
know.
one?
You're talking about
the newer one,
the energy contract?
The
or-
solar.
yes.
Yeah, so the solar, so the money for the grant came in, we hired them. I don't think they have completed the assessment, which will tell us, put it on the roof, put up a solar array for it, but it's definitely in progress.
I was gonna say that, yeah, there was emails flying around about the roof and who had the,
roof, I think
the
they deemed
information.
the roof was strong enough. for
and
panels.
yes, yeah,
Good,
I think
yes.
that was the last from Kristen,
Yep.
was that it was okay.
Mhm.
They could do it, and then I know Fred was looking for more information, and I think that they ended up getting in touch with the actual architect.
Yeah, I forget who the green, the solar people are.
Select.
Thank you.
I mean, if a PE is willing to put their nice little wet stamp on that structural, the roof is structurally sound, I'm good. It's an interpretation thing, right? You know, some people are gonna be more conservative than others, so hopefully it's, I mean, I'm not doubting them. If they say it's good, it's good.
Yes, anything to potentially reduce those thousands of dollars
Yeah.
per month
That'd be good.
electric bill.
Yeah, and I mean, like in that particular case, you know, there are means to be able to control how much hot air escapes when you open the doors too, so that'd be another thing that, you know, potentially we
Yeah.
could look for. All right, what else, anything?
When is our next meeting?
Hold on. It's the first Tuesday, which would be, I do believe that will be the 3rd of October. Let me check my town government to make sure.
Is it the first Tuesday? Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
It looks like the third.
Mm-hmm.
And is it possible that we could start earlier?
Sure. What time do you want to start?
I don't know, 6:30?
Oh, go for 6.
Don't go for 6. Well, okay, you can go for 6. I'll show up.
6 o'clock is fine.
Yeah.
It's just I don't tend to drive when it's dark, except on Wednesday nights.
Right on. Okay, we can do that.
Well, which one?
6:30.
6:30.
I will
Is that
update-
okay, Amy?
Yes, that's fine. I was just thinking of you with the 6 o'clock.
Why am I having trouble finding the?
Is there
future?
anything in particular that we would be looking for next meeting?
I think the goal for next meeting would be for me to bring a conversation with Kelly Brown to the table. I think that's important. We should have an update from Kristen on availability for her meeting, so we'll talk to her. We should have a submission of the vehicle information by then. And I think that given the discussion that we had today, we should be able to talk about our role in the facilities audit.
Kristen has decided. to
When are
s-
they supposed to start pulling that together?
I don't
We
know.
just gave the approval when we met last week, so I'm sure by the time everything's kind of like signed and documented.
It'll be a
A
few.
while.
Kristen approached and asked if I would be
Yes.
okay with being on that too.
Yes, thank you
So-
for reminding me. That was actually something we forgot to talk
There I
about.
go.
So, there's a public meeting on the DPU ruling,
Yes,
correct?
yes, and
you're
I'm going to that as well. I'm going to that.
Yep,
And then she was saying, because I have access to all the utility bills,
yep.
that she didn't want to voluntold me, so she asked me first. She's like, is it okay if you're on the committee?
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, that's fine. She's like, sure.
So this is the facilities committee, right?
So the facilities thing with the
Correct.
energy, I will,
So Amy's
Yes.
taken one for the team
I will be on.
twice.
Yes, you were named last week, she threw it out there, so I don't know
I
if
haven't
she
even
already asked
watched.
you, or.
I haven't even watched it. I'm like, because I didn't come that night. But she did. She asked me that afternoon. She's like, I didn't want to do it without letting you know. So you're okay with that, right? I'm like, yeah,
We said 6:30, right?
it's all good.
Yeah, when she comes back, there was a report that they did, which I think might go to your point about what's exactly in that report. It was a hard copy that unfortunately she couldn't shush around to us. So grab it and see what's in there,
Yeah.
and maybe that is part of the study.
Well, I think that they had actually added the energy as part of the whole package.
Yeah.
And it was the extra.
Yeah.
I can't remember how much it was.
I think it was
either, but
18,000. She
I
was,
think
she
you're
was basically
right.
coming to us and saying, hey, we've already done this.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the adder fund? So one of my objectives today was get them to
make
confirm
sure
or
that that was
deny
going to
that
be
that was
okay.
So I feel confident and
Yeah.
Okay, what
Good.
about the police?
what about it, please?
Weren't they going to be putting up,
Electric chargers outside.
something like that?
That kind of died on the vine. Honestly, it was discussed and then went,
Okay. Well, maybe that's something that we can resurrect.
Who went? I mean, I saw the
your former
photo.
police chief. When he left, it kind of went away. So given how they're short on staff and things, I think that's where their focus is, and not so much putting
Yeah.
a charging station out there. And I think that they're getting rid of the electric car that they have. I know, I don't mean to make you shake.
Yes, 'cause somebody called me looking, he had won the bid.
Yeah.
On the Volt. And
Yep. Yeah, so it's not gonna be replaced, because we had questioned that when they were getting, because of the drone, where they were getting the car donation from the Stevens Foundation. It was just a regular
Yeah.
car, and I had brought that up about what does that do to our green community, because now we don't.
We're going backwards.
Correct.
And this is extraordinarily frustrating to me because we had a conversation with the chief where he did commit to, alternative vehicles, and given the direction that the state is going, Fred, for example, just got a mandatory audit given to him by the state, looking for what they could potentially do in the Department of Public Utilities, or not Department, you know what I guess.
Public Works.
Yeah, Public Works, how they can work that. I mean, at the time we had the conversation, because there was actually a discussion amongst ourselves whether we wanted to oppose at town meeting, and ultimately we voted to retreat from that. But that was given the assurances that we were looking at that. And, you know, we were told that some of the police cruisers haven't been, you know, electric cruisers haven't been certified by, I guess it was the Michigan State Police and these other things, but I'm not sure I'm buying. And that's, and I'll say this frankly, and this is part of the reason why we're doing the vehicle assessment, is I want professionals to give us our options, to at least so we know what's out there. So that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Sometimes it's just hard to get the information you need.
Yeah. So to be able to offer a menu of choices is where we're trying to get to.
Mhm. But yeah, once that car goes, then we have no electric cars. And I think they just got the new police car. I don't think that there's a new fire chief. We just bought that one last year, didn't we?
I
That
think
Tahoe?
so.
I kept calling it Tonneau, but I got overruled. I don't know what's in line for vehicles to come up.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to be recognized by Barry at the next town meeting.
Which might be winter. I think Kristen was potentially mentioning one, so there might be a late fall one.
For when?
Late fall, maybe?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Describe for me what is late fall. I'd sort of be intimately involved, so it'd be helpful if I, you know, have an inkling as to what people are talking about.
There has not been a date, a specific date. All I can tell you is late fall, early winter for a potential special town meeting.
In
That's
that
all I got
case,
for you, Eloise.
with, that's all, if that's all I know, I'd say go for the first or second week in December.
Okay. I'll pass it along.
Because, well, I believe, community preservation gets notified of their money by November 15th in that ballpark.
As long as everything is,
Well, there's a
Yeah.
perfect world and then there's
Yeah.
ours.
yeah.
Okay. I can see if I can nail down a date for you at our next select board meeting.
It's just,
to make it a
next
little bit
year,
more tighter-ish.
next year, it would be difficult.
Okay.
All right, I think we've used our nickel. Anything further before we entertain a motion to adjourn?
Yep.
I move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned at 7:49.